Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're unpacking an incredibly profound address delivered by Dr. Vikas Divyakirti at Hansraj College. Honestly, it's like a master class on navigating the kind of intense emotional turmoil that just feels so uniquely overwhelming in our modern world. We're going to look at the raw, unvarnished realities of emotional survival, breaking down insights drawn from history, literature, and even real-life tragedies. By the end of this, we're really hoping to understand how we can ultimately protect our peace of mind. Let's dive in. So it all begins with a core question. Why do we give up? Why do we succumb to life's pressures? This is the fundamental emotional crisis facing young people today. We see these incredibly bright, ambitious individuals just crumbling under the weight of expectations, heartbreaks, and career setbacks. But you have to wonder, what is actually happening beneath the surface to cause this kind of total emotional collapse? Section 1. Youth's Emotional Struggle. The modern youth crisis isn't just a phase. It's actually a potent chemical cocktail. Dr. Divyakirti points out that youth is driven by intense hormones and biological chemistry, which makes every single emotion feel massively magnified. When you're young, your brain is literally wired for intensity. Whether it's a minor career hurdle, a breakup, or just the constant, exhausting pressure of being watched and judged on social media, it all feels like the absolute end of the world. The highs are incredibly high, making you feel completely invincible. But those lows, man, they can feel utterly devastating. It's just an exhausting way to live, constantly swinging from one extreme to another. Section 2. Giving up versus letting go. Now, giving up and letting go might sound similar, but they are worlds apart. Giving up is basically accepting defeat while still carrying the heavy baggage of frustration. It leaves you trapped with a broken ego, constantly looking back, constantly wondering what could have been. You stop trying, sure, but your mind is still completely imprisoned by the failure. Letting go, on the other hand, well, that's an active, empowering choice. It's a conscious release. It's deciding that a toxic situation, a broken relationship, or an unattainable goal simply isn't worth sacrificing your mental freedom. Letting go allows you to move on gracefully, with your dignity and your peace of mind entirely intact. Section 3. The price of holding on. And this rigidity, it often builds into real-world tragedy. Dr. Divyakirti recounts a really devastating event from back in 1995 in Delhi. An intensely private video between two teenagers was maliciously shared. Because of the novelty of early camera phones and the ruthless 24/7 sensationalism of early private news channels, the story completely exploded. It became a national spectacle. The societal pressure, the invasive surveillance, and the relentless public shaming became so unbearable that an innocent girl was forced to flee the country entirely. And tragically, her father, unable to bear the weight of this fabricated societal shame, took his own life. This is the ultimate, heartbreaking cost of a society and individuals unable to let go of judgment and unable to simply allow people to live. And unfortunately, that is not an isolated incident. The source material outlines several cases where this exact kind of rigidity led to tragedy. There was a brilliant university debater, someone full of life and promise, taking his own life over a relationship he just couldn't salvage. A young, vibrant couple succumbing to the unbearable, fatal pressure of an intercaste marriage. There are even highly successful IAS and IPS officers, people who pass the toughest, most rigorous exams in the entire country, succumbing to domestic stress. It proves a really sobering point. You can have unmatched academic success, you can pass the toughest exams, but immense intellectual brilliance means very little if you lack the emotional toolkit to manage stress and simply let go. So, this inability to process emotional setbacks often leads to what philosophers call illicit generalization. Actually, scratch that. Think of it more like forming a universal, absolute rule based on a tiny, isolated sample size. Dr. Divyakirti shares a deeply poignant anecdote of a former student who is now in his 40s and living entirely alone. Why? Well, because in his 20s, he experienced a painful breakup. Instead of letting it go, he formed an absolute, rigid rule that all women are deceitful, based entirely on that one isolated sample. He held on to that bitterness so tightly for so many years that he effectively locked himself out of a lifetime of potential, happiness, and companionship. To bring this closer to home, Dr. Divyakirti contrasts his own parents. His mother took on all the stress and worries of the household. She held on to every single anxiety, leading to high stress levels and, tragically, a shorter lifespan. His father, conversely, adopted a carefree, let-it-go attitude towards life's uncontrollable elements. Today, at 81 years old, he practices yoga, he fasts, and he possesses this incredible youthful glow that honestly outshines people decades younger than him. It brilliantly illustrates how adopting a let-it-go mindset isn't just about finding emotional peace. It literally adds years of joy and vitality to your physical life. Section 4. Lessons from Literature and History. The legendary poet Sahir Ludhianvi once wrote that when an introduction or a relationship becomes a disease, when it becomes toxic and completely consumes your peace, it is far better to simply forget it. You don't need to destroy the other person. You certainly don't need to destroy yourself in retaliation. You just need to give it a beautiful, dignified turn and leave. It's all about recognizing when a chapter's over and closing the book with grace rather than tearing out the pages. We see this dignified release perfectly captured in the historical story of Yashodhara, the wife of the Buddha. When Buddha left his royal life to seek enlightenment, he did so in the middle of the night, without even telling her. For years, Yashodhara suffered immense pain, not just because he left, but because of the deep, lingering sting of broken trust. She was left behind, holding the pieces. Yet, years later, when Buddha returned to the city as a monk begging for alms, she didn't meet him with the fiery anger she had every right to feel. Instead, she actively chose to surrender her ego. She stepped past her resentment and actually handed over their son, Rahul, to join his cause. Dr. Divyakirti calls this the ultimate historical example of letting go, recognizing a greater, nobler purpose and consciously releasing your own personal pain to support it. This profound evolution of thought is also beautifully mirrored in literature. Look at how the portrayal of Radha changes over the centuries. In the 16th century, the poet Surdas portrayed Radha as physically weak, weeping constantly and refusing to even wash her clothes because they held Krishna's fading memories. She was utterly trapped by her attachment, unable to function. But fast forward to the 20th century, and the poet Harioth portrays a wonderfully independent Radha. She wishes Krishna well for the greater good of society, making total peace with the fact that he may never return to her. She realizes her life has purpose beyond waiting. It goes to show, true love and true inner peace naturally evolves from selfish attachment to selfless liberation. Section 5. How to make life better. So how do we actually apply this in our day-to-day lives? First up is handling romantic rejection. Dr. Divyakirti advises us to handle it democratically. Step 1. Just as you have the right to propose, you absolutely must respect their right to say no. A no is not a negotiation. Step 2, part with dignity. Do not become a bitter, toxic stalker making threats or throwing insults. Walk away with your head held high. And step 3, channel that classic Bollywood energy. Say Ja Simran Ja, let them live their life freely and you move forward to fiercely live yours. Then there's the modern nightmare of digital outrage, something so many young people fear today. The timeline usually looks exactly like this. You make a mistake or get misquoted online. This immediately leads to intense, seemingly world-ending public backlash and crushing anxiety. But here's the secret to surviving it. If you can endure that initial storm and realize that internet outrage is incredibly temporary, you develop a permanent mental shield. Dr. Divyakirti shares his own experience of surviving online mobs, noting that once you survive at the very first time, the illusion is completely broken. You become virtually immune to trolls in the future because you finally realize their words hold absolutely no real power over your actual life. And when it comes to career failures, the advice is incredibly practical. Always have a backup plan. In intensely competitive environments where literally millions of people are fighting for just 1,000 spots, failure is a statistical probability, not a personal flaw. Tying your entire self-worth to a single exam or a single job title is a recipe for absolute despair. Take a breath, step back, and realize this. You are infinitely more than a single exam. You are infinitely more than a single dream. I want to leave you with this incredibly powerful mantra from Dr. Divyakirti's address. Why fear what will happen in life? If nothing else, there will be experience. It perfectly encapsulates the entire art of letting go. When we stop frantically clinging to specific outcomes and instead embrace the journey, the failures, the harsh rejections, the totally unexpected turns, we finally free ourselves from fear. So think about your own life for a moment. What old resentments are you currently holding on to? And what amazing, vibrant experiences might you open yourself up to if you finally chose to just let them go?